Can the nib and feed be removed and separated from each other on a Pilot Vanishing Point? If not, what are some extra tips to keep these as clean as possible? Okay, yes, you can remove the nib and the feed on the Pilot Vanishing Point. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see exactly how I am doing this. So this is the black matte vanishing point, but it doesn't really matter because the nib unit inside is the same for all of them, the vanishing point and the Decimo. It's actually exactly the same for both. So here's the actual nib unit itself when you take the body off. And the nib is actually very thin. You know, if I take this nib and actually compare it to a number 6 size nib that's on this Keros Customs right here, well, it's a bad example because it's got a little hooded thing going on there. Let me pull up the tactile turn. So if I pull up the number 6 nib that's on the tactile turn, you can see just how different in size these things are. And it's interesting because if I go and I pull this out, you're going to see that there's a lot of extra space down in here. Got to wipe the nib off so you can actually see what I have going on. So here's your typical kind of number 6 nib. You know, it's this long. There's about this much of it that's inside the grip. It's very different for the Vanishing Point. It's a very skinny nib, as you can see, and it has these little wings on the back of it. I'm going to use my little Goulet grip here, and I want to be careful doing this, but if I wrap it around, I can actually grip this nib, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a rocking back and forth. I don't want to really do a lot here, so I'm going to be really careful. It's different because it has these wings that kind of wrap around the side here, but the rest of it is pretty much on top. So you have to be kind of cautious when you're trying to remove this out of the pen. But it's kind of surprising how little of this nib is actually in the pen. So let me see if I can finagle this out of there. It can take a little bit of work. And I think this one's inked up, which is kind of dried up in there. So I'm really not helping myself out here too much. There we go. Okay, so I got it off, and what's interesting with this one, it has those wings that kind of hold it on there, but this is where the thing is sitting when it's in there. So look at how little of that nib is actually up in to the grip of that pen. So that's not really the part that matters because it has a feed here with a feed channel that's cut in, and that feed channel is getting ink to the tip of this nib. You can see how short these tines are on this nib. It's really not shoved up in there very far. So yeah, you can clean it out. I haven't actually tried to remove the feed out of this thing before because I haven't really found any benefit to doing that. I'm sure there is a way to do it. Ooh, I just pulled apart my converter as I was trying to remove it. How do you like that? This is live, recorded live here, folks, where Brian destroys his own pens. Okay. Yeah, that's what happens when you leave your pens dried up for too long. You get into interesting things like that. Okay, well, so what happened here is my Con 50 converter. Let me show you what that thing looks like if I can find one. My Con 50 converter has become disassembled in my pen. I yanked the thing right out of there. So here's my Con 50, and I've gotten this plastic part that's actually stuck in the pen. I can get that out at some point, but I'm having a difficult time grabbing it. Boy, this is riveting entertainment here, isn't it, folks? Okay, well, I'm not going to focus on that too much right now. I have a little bit of repair work to do there. I'll probably have to grab my pliers and just mangle the thing to get it out of there. Looks like it's got a little crack in it anyway, which is probably why, yep, I got a little crack in the top there. Well, how do you like that? After 6 years, my converter has finally died in this pen. Let me grab a little pliers here. It happens to the best of us, folks. Now you're going to see me mangle it. There we go. Okay. So if you have your pen inked up and you let it dry out and it adheres inside the thing, you could break your converter. Anyway, that's what just happened there. So anyway, where I was getting at with that is if you want to remove this thing, you can, but honestly, there's not a lot going on here. So I wouldn't say as a regular cleaning practice that I would probably recommend doing that much. I'm doing it here for demonstration purposes, but it's really only if you're in some kind of serious trouble and you need to pull that thing out of there that I would say to do that, because it's pretty easy to screw it up if you don't do it right. The best thing is going to be to use a bulb syringe. So if you take the converter out, which you can do usually on most other pens. That's honest to goodness the first time that's ever happened to me. So I'm really glad it was on video. Just use a bulb syringe and you can just stick it right on the back of this thing and flush it. And that's gonna be 99% of what you need. You can use a pen flush if you need to every now and then. I'm gonna put my new converter on here now. But that's gonna be enough to take care of it. And then just reinstall it in the pen, you know, make sure it's lined up and you're gonna be good to go.